And it is recording. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Charles Randolph. I'm your friendly neighborhood instructional technology coordinator. And this is another wonderful VSTE diversity and inclusion webinar brought to you by VSTE. And we have our wonderful presenter today, Ms. Kate Fielding, that will be doing our webinar today on Share Your Story, Get That Job. Miss Katie, it's all yours. Say hi to the wonderful crowd out there.
Hello.
Oh, I forgot, Miss Katie, I'm sorry, I forgot one thing to say. Anybody who joins in, please make sure to mute yourself and turn off your camera so Miss Katie has the full screen. Sorry about that, Miss Katie, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. Oh, thank you so much, Charles. I'm going to put the link in the chat to where you can view the resources later that I'm going to be speaking about. And feel free to put any questions in the chat as we go. If you want anything clarified, I'd be glad to do that. So I'm Katie. I am a tech coach in Prince William County, Virginia. I'm a Google Innovator trainer and coach, and I'm a Google Canvas certified educator, and all these other things that you see on the screen. And I work with Unison EDU as well as ITCs for All. And of course, our great VSTE Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. All right, so today I'm going to be talking to you about portfolios and why you might want to make one and some design tips for making one. So a portfolio can be a really great tool to use if you're looking to go into a different school, looking to change roles and move into leadership, or looking to change maybe into an ed tech sector of the workforce. So you want to create a portfolio to share your story of growth, so how you've changed as an educator over time and your achievements and successes, as well as maybe some of your failures. And I'm going to talk about that a bit later, about kind of the two philosophical approaches you can take to your portfolio creation. All right, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is the educational frameworks. It can be helpful to build your portfolio around an educational framework, which is something that an administrator or a hiring person may be familiar with and can then put your portfolio in the context of something that they are familiar with and utilize in the district that they work in. The second thing I'm going to talk about is tools and design. So some design ideas and tools that you can use when actually creating your portfolio. And the third thing I'm going to talk about is what you should actually put in your portfolio, what things that you should add. All right, so the first thing, the educational frameworks. As I said, it can be helpful to use a framework to build your portfolio on, so that the person hiring, the administrator you're interviewing with, has already a frame of reference and can kind of tie that portfolio work that you've done to something that may be important to the district or to that school. So for instance, VSTE standards, many schools and districts, especially if you're going into ed tech, they want you to be familiar with the VSTE standards. That can definitely be a framework that you can build your portfolio around. You can build it around the student standards and show student work. You can build it around the educator standards, or if you're looking to go into a coaching or administrative role, you could build it around the standards for those as well. Another, at least in the state of Virginia, familiar framework is that we have the profile of a graduate, which has those 5 C's, the communicator, citizen, collaborator, critical thinking, et cetera. So you could make those 5 different sections of your portfolio and put evidence of each under those pages. And then the third framework that's also adopted by many schools is the Future Ready framework. And so they have standards and standards for librarians, coaches, as well as administrators, again. So thinking about the role that you want to go into, think about the framework that might best exemplify the work that you want to show. All right, now let's get into tools and design. So this is the fun part, the creative part, and also a really important part because you want your portfolio to look professional and to be eye-catching and engaging for the viewer. So I'm going to share some tools, a couple which are you can pay money for, but almost everything I'm going to share today is free. So ways you can make your presentations, website, portfolio look very nice. So the first thing I'm going to recommend, first step will be talking about buying your domain. The second step, I'll be talking about what platform you should pick. So what kind of web service you want to use to create your website. Then I'll give you some design tips, and then I'll talk about curating your pieces. So the first thing, and what is actually really important, I think, is buying your domain. All right, so you can see the resource I shared today is katiefielding.com. That is my domain. They can go there and find more about me. It makes it easy for people to find your website. The second thing is it costs $12. So it costs $12 to buy either your name or your brand, whatever it might be, and make your website look professional from the URL get-go. You know, if you were to use Google Sites and you didn't have your domain, you know, it might be sites.google.com/xyz123/XYZ. It's a long, hard to type in URL. You want to give them something that is easy to type and also connected to you. So that's why I recommend buying your own URL. You can do it many places on the web. You've probably heard of GoDaddy. My personal favorite is Google Domains. So domains.google.com. I like it because they make it very easy to integrate with a Google site and or Wix or many other platforms. So that would be my first recommendation to making your professional site, is to just buy your domain. If you spend money on anything, spend it here. The second tip I have is to pick your platform. So if you're at a Google school and you're already very familiar with Google tools, and a lot of your pieces that you might include in your portfolio are already in your Google Docs, I would recommend a Google site. It's going to be very easy to embed those documents you already have within the site and share those things. Also, it's very much like using a Google document. So if you're familiar with that, it will be easy for you to create. Also, it's free. If you want something even a little bit maybe next level professional looking, Wix is a great option. So it will cost you some money, about $10 a month for their just base plan, but it can really knock you up to the next level. But my site that you'll see is just a Google site. So if you want to have an example of what you can do on Google Sites, feel free to poke around my website. So after you pick what platform you want to use, you want to create a style board. And this will be your colors, your graphics, and your fonts that you're going to use on your creations that will go on your page. And also you could use these for your social media creations. I have a brand. That is what my style board, you'll create your brand when you create your style board. I have colors I always use, graphics I always use, and fonts I always use. And that makes it, one, very easy for me when I go to make a presentation. I don't have to think about those things. So it's very much like a Steve Jobs or a Mark Zuckerberg, who always wear the black turtleneck or the gray hoodie. I don't have to think about what I'm going to put on as the dressing of my presentation, because I've thought about that a long time ago, and I just use it consistently for all the pieces I create. Also, that means that when I go put these pieces on my portfolio, they all have a cohesive look. So this presentation you're viewing today uses the same colors, graphics, and fonts that my website uses, and that anything else I create as an educator uses. So it's all consistent. I really recommend using Canva or Spark, Adobe Spark, and I'm going to show you now why. So I'm going to go over here to Canva. I love Canva. If you have not used Canva for education, it is free. As a teacher, you can get all the premium features of Canva. I love to use it to make presentations and other things, but it can be really useful for making banners on your website and other imagery that you may want to put on your website. I like it because part of my use of Canva, you can make a brand kit. So when I go to Canva and I make my brand kit, I get to add those colors of the brand that I've created, those colors I always use, the fonts I always use. So they are always ready to go in anything that I create whenever I'm in the creation phase. You can also do the same thing in Adobe Spark. They also have a brand area. So you'll see that I have several brands. Some of these are examples I've done with students, but this one, for instance, I have my logo, I have my colors, and I have my fonts. So whenever I create something in Adobe Spark, those things are there and ready to go. Again, it's just going to save you time in the long run to create a brand and have a cohesive look in all the things that you create. So that's my number one tip, is to make a style board. So let's get into the details of the 3 parts of the style board. The first one is colors. I love to create color palettes, and there is actually a very much science and art to the color combinations. I love coolors.co. It is a great color scheme generator, and I'll show you how it works. So if I come over here and I go to Coolors, maybe you don't know quite the colors you would want to use. So you can just press Start Generator. And all you have to do is press your space bar. Keep pressing your space bar until a color comes up that you like. And then you can just lock that color in. And then I can just keep pressing the space bar, and 4 other colors that go well with it. You might not expect these colors to go well, but in a color scheme, they do. So keep pressing until you find another color that you think goes well with your vibe, your personal vibe and brand, until you get 4 or 5 colors that would make up your color palette. Then you can go add these colors to Canva's brand kit or Adobe Spark's brand kit, and you'll have them good to go for whatever you create. So that's step 1, is picking your colors. Step 2 is graphics. Now, I love graphics, and there are lots of great places to get very good graphics. So I'm going to show you a few websites that I go to for graphics. You can get JPEGs or PNGs, which are basic graphic file types, but you can also get a lot of vector graphic files, which you could then even edit further for the colors with a tool like Adobe Illustrator, if you have access to that. So I'm going to show you a few websites that I really like for graphics. All right, so the first one is probably the most basic, but this can help you pull a project together, like a presentation, really quickly. So undraw.co, I can click Browse Now, and I can change the main accent color to one of those colors I picked over in Coolors. So I could copy this hex code, and I could come over to Undraw and pop that in, and you'll see that now all of the imagery has that color. So I can quickly pull together 5 or more images that have a cohesive look. And so I can then search for my topic, create, and I can find all these imageries that deal with creativity. So I think, oh, this might fit well on my website. I can download it as a SVG, which I could edit further with Adobe Illustrator, or I can download it as a PNG and just upload it right away to my presentation or my website. So Undraw, great free tool. I also like that it has a great diversity of people in its options. Another great free tool is DrawKit, and they have collections of images. And one of the ones that I really like and go to often is this online education learning resources. So I can go here and I can download these SVG images, and I can edit them to my brand colors, again, with Adobe Illustrator. Many of us have access to Adobe Illustrator through our employers. There are other online free SVG or SVG editors, so you can just look online for one of those if you don't have Adobe Illustrator access. A third website that I really like is blackillustrations.com. And I maintain our school's website, and I feel it's really important to represent the diversity in my student body in the images we use. So I have actually paid for, they have a education packet of images. We do like to pay our artists sometimes when we can. And this is a great resource for images of people with darker skin tones, Black people. And my last option, and this is another great one, is blush.design. Actually, all of the images in the presentation I'm giving today come from that. They have collections, and the collection that I'm using today is actually the humans collection. And what's really cool is that you can pick the kind of scene. I'll pick this one, and I can change the background. And then I can also do a brand kit. So I've applied my colors. And then I can click randomize, and all the different people combinations will come up. So you'll see the head shapes and the clothes and the skin tones change, and I can pick one of these that I like and I can download it. Now, this is a monthly subscription service, but they do have a free 7-day trial. So if you're making your website and you wanted to get all of those images kind of at the front end, you could get on a 7-day trial and get all the images you need for your portfolio. So this is a great option as well. So images can really make your portfolio a striking, visual, beautiful thing. All right, and the last item I'm going to talk about is fonts. So ideally, you only want to use 2 fonts on your website, maybe one type of font for a header and another for body text. You also want to keep in mind the readership of your website. Sans serif fonts are more legible for those with reading difficulties than serif fonts. Serif fonts are the ones that have like a little tail at the end of some of the letters, and those can be more difficult. So FontJoy is a website that can help you create font sets and just seeing how to pair fonts together. So let's say that you really like Montserrat as your main font. You can lock it in. So this is kind of similar to Coolers. And then I can just click generate, and it will show me 2 other fonts that go well with it, a subheading font and a body font. And I can just keep clicking this till I see something that I like. And then I can see, oh, this is the name Knitter font, and I could go and utilize that on my website. So fonts are also very important. Keeping nice, clean fonts for readability is helpful to your reader. All right. So this is my example style board. So it has my fonts on it, it has those colors I created, and it has a representative graphic image. What I recommend you do is to create 2 or 3 different style boards. And then what we always need is an editor. So take your style board to a friend, your partner, your kids, and say, hey, which ones do you like? And get some feedback on that, because we kind of can sometimes get in our own heads about what we really like and not think about how it may look to other people. And so it's always just good to get some opinions. All right, and the last thing I want to talk about is curating your artifacts, because of course the content is super important. You have 2 approaches that you can take to your content. You can take the positivist approach, and that is that everything is your best product that you're going to put on your portfolio. The second option is the constructivist approach, where maybe your examples are not your best exemplars, but the reflection you put along with it is the supporting important piece, showing your growth, showing, hey, I did this, but it actually isn't my best work, and this is why. So you can take those 2 approaches to your portfolio, or you can even take a mix of both of those approaches in one space. So some other things to make sure that you include in your portfolio is your personal statement. If you did an education degree like I did almost 20 years ago, you might remember writing your educational philosophy. So that could be kind of your personal statement, or a statement that reflects your career goals. Then your CV or resume, you can include, it has the usual things like employment history, education history, any presentations you might have given, professional associations you're a part of. Those are things to include there. Then, as this is a portfolio, you want to show pieces of work. So lesson plans and student examples should be a part of this if you're an educator and not wanting to move into a different role. And remember to keep student privacy in mind. We want to make sure that there's no personally identifying information on any of the student samples that you share, especially if this is a public website. Other pieces of things you can do are sharing tweets or other pieces of social media that maybe you've shared before and have gotten great responses. Multimedia images of you, videos of you giving presentations can all be enhancing your portfolio. And lastly, any awards, honors, or achievements you've received, share those as well. This is not a time to be bashful and not a time to be modest. You want to share and be a bit braggy. Also, if you're looking to move into ed tech, having those badges, those micro credentials on your portfolio can be helpful. And if you want to learn more about some of those, you can go to Badge Ed Tech. And there's a whole list of all of those types of Nearpod certified, Flipgrid certified, all of those badges that you can get as an educator. Lastly, I just want to talk about taking this into the classroom, because ultimately my goal in helping you make a portfolio is, one, to help you get your job that you want, but two, also to kind of bring this practice of portfolio creation into your classroom. So again, kind of with that constructivist, positivist approach, you can take several approaches to bringing portfolios in your classroom. Again, for growth, they post their assignment and then they have their reflection. Or they're creating a portfolio of mastery. For instance, in my cosmetology classes at my school, we work on creating portfolios of their best hair work and nail work, so that after they pass the state boards in the spring, they can take their portfolios to salons and get some jobs. And lastly, it could be a mix of the two. Again, some of their best work, but also some reflection. There's a lot of benefits to student portfolio creation. It helps them establish their goals and track their own learning, which is what we want. We want a lot of student agency in the classroom. Also, it really prompts their own autonomy in the learning process. They have to take ownership of more, and the reflection time can be actually when they do some of the most learning. So for final thoughts, I just want to say that I hope you take some time to develop your portfolio and that you take some risks in doing it. Again, get feedback on your portfolio. We all need an editor. Regularly update it. At the end of every month, I have a calendar reminder to update my portfolio from that month. So at the end of the month, I go add anything that was great from that month and maybe take away some things that don't match up to the new greatness that I've created. And lastly, but most importantly, sharing your story. I would say that once I started sharing my story as a disabled person, I had far more success and authenticity in what I was creating. When that I wasn't afraid to share some of the most intimate parts of me. I had the most connection with others, which is ultimately what any success in work is your relationships with colleagues and other people you work with. So don't be afraid to share your story and what makes you unique and what makes you the best person to get that job that you're going after. So I'd love for you to feel free to contact me with any questions about portfolio creation. And thank you so much for giving me some of your time today.
All right. We had another wonderful presentation by Ms. Katie. You can give a virtual clap and a good thank you. You're getting some nice comments on that wonderful chat already, and we appreciate that. Thank you again, participants, for following wonderful VSTE, Diversity, Equity, and Equality, and Ms. Katie's presentation and as far as the webinar. Also, Ms. Katie, are we okay to put your slides up on the VSTE website too?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I want to make sure we called her in person saying that. So this will be on wonderful.
I'll give you the embed code.
Okay, we wanted to make sure. So
Yeah.
always check with our presenters. So thank you for attending, and information will be on the website for VSTE. Thank you very much, Ms. Katie. Thank you for presenting, and everybody else have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
And stopping the recording now.